Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory. Today, another soft-spoken video for Mystober. I usually do soft-spoken on Wednesdays, but somebody suggested doing more than once a week while I'm in this month-long series. And I have to admit, I thought about it. So once I got that request, it kind of made sense to share with you another soft-spoken video. However, I don't know the specific day that I will be posting this soft-spoken while on the October series, but I'll add it to the title, so if you don't like soft-spoken, you can totally skip it. You will get a bunch of videos for the month of October that you can pick and choose the one you like the most. I had to lower the gain because traffic, it's nuts. Hate to drive now, and to be honest, it won't stop. So before anybody starts mowing their lawns and things get louder, I decided to do the second video on the series I started yesterday inside the Mystober series. And this new one, it's about killers and captors. Remember, we talked about that it will be something about, the series will be about kidnappers that range from trusted authority figures, politically motivated strangers, and what do they have in common? Seems like nothing, right? At the end of the series, we will be able to have a good compilation of cases that will help you, hopefully, understand or put things together a little better. Today, we're gonna talk about a case that I have to be honest, never heard of this case before, but it's very odd and interesting at the same time. As always, this is a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened, and I wish that there would be a day when I ran out of content. Nothing would make me happier than that, because this is after you cover a few cases and continue to do this for a while, you realize how messed up this world is, and I wish this stopped, I wish this never happened, but there are still things going on today as it was back then in 1974. Now, I told you a little bit about the story yesterday. This is about Patty Hearst, who was kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and brainwashed. Then she was sent to prison. Are you following me? Well, around 9 p.m. on February 4th, 1974. 19-year-old Patty Hearst heard a knock on the door of her Berkeley, California apartment. She didn't live alone. She shared the apartment with her fiancé, Stephen Weed. Everything changed since that knock, and within moments, people got in their apartment with guns, and the intruders assaulted her fiancé, Stephen. Now, they also, after that, they grabbed her, Patty, and who, by the way, happened to be the granddaughter of newspaper famous guy William Randolph Hearst. They took Patty. They put her inside the trunk of a car and drove off. She is known as the young Heiress because of her connection or her relation to this newspaper famous guy who happened to be her grandfather. So maybe you heard the story as the Heiress. Now, nobody knew where she was. Her father, Randolph, the publisher of the San Francisco Examiner, waited anxiously with his family to hear from Patty or her abductors. They finally contact them a few days later by delivering a tape to a local radio station. In the tape, you could hear two people. Patty telling her parents she was okay, and a guy who called himself General Field Marshal Sink. He made him, I guess they knew him as the General, who announced that he and the authorities he represented held Patty's fate in their hands. Now, this general guy who was in the tape with Patty was actually an escaped convict named Donald DeFreeze. He was also a key member of the left-wing guerrilla group called the Symbionese Liberation Army, or SLA, which was bent on destroying the capitalist state. The group issued an ultimatum to Randolph Hearst, and they wanted him to secure, in order to secure Patty's release, her dad would have to feed California's poor people. Her dad, Randolph Hearst, distributed $6 million worth of food to the Bay Area. Sadly, this was not enough for the SLA group. The terrorist kept Patty in a closet-sized space and forced her to participate in indoctrination sessions so that she would accept their goals and philosophy. She said that she was also sexually assaulted. And quote, this is by Patty. I mean, if you're going to break somebody down, I guess talking about her assault. And this was in an NBC Dateline episode in 1997. She said, also, you clearly use everything that is at your disposal. And obviously this kind of molestation is really a powerful way to attack a woman. End quote. Eventually, Patty's captor wore her down. In taped messages released to her father, she began to voice her support of the SLA. On April 3rd, after weeks of silence, Patty recorded an announcement that shocked her parents and supporters across the nation. She said, quote, I have been given the choice of, number one, being released in a safe area, or number two, joining the forces of this organization and fight for freedom and the freedom of all oppressed people. I have chosen to stay and fight, Patty said. Her new name was Tanya in honor of cohort of the Argentine revolutionary Che Guevara. Okay, there's that added to the horrible thing that just happened. Less than 2 weeks later, images of Tanya toting a machine gun were captured by a security camera at San Francisco Bank that was held up by the SLA. She was barking orders to bystanders and watching out for her colleagues. 9 days later, the SLA released a new tape in which Tanya addressed the public, claiming that her gun had been loaded and that she had acted of her own free will during the robbery. She also asserted that the idea of brainwashing was ridiculous to the point of being beyond belief. The SLA relocated to LA and quickly resumed criminal activities. They attempted but failed to rob a sporting goods store, spraying the place with bullets One evening, while Patty and SLA members William and Emily Heiress were out stealing vehicles, the LA Police Department raided the house where the group were staying. The small place caught fire during the assault, and all inside were killed. After a summer on the run, Patty made the news again when she drove the getaway car for a bank robbery. This was near Sacramento, in which a mother of 4 was shot and killed. She was soon tracked down by the FBI, who found her hiding in a safe house. Despite Patty's claim that she had been brainwashed, a jury found her guilty of armed robbery, and she was sentenced to 7 years in prison. She served just 22 months before President Jimmy Carter commuted her sentence in 1979. In 2001, Bill Clinton granted her a presidential pardon. Quote, "So much anger was directed at me because of the war. Watergate, the whole 60s generation that had disappointed their parents so badly." Patty told this to Dateline. I wouldn't even be charged today because people don't charge kidnap victims for crimes they committed while in the company of their kidnappers. Which makes a whole lot of sense until you hear what she told her parents. However, it could have been something that she was made, somebody wrote for her and she had to do it. That is totally a scenario that basically she painted to the police. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Tom Matthews' wild ride. High school senior Tom Matthews had just finished dinner on the evening of May 16, 1974, when a woman showed up to ask about test driving a van he had for sale. Once in the vehicle, the woman asked Matthews if they could pick up some of her friends. He agreed, only to find himself face to face with armed SLA members and somebody he later recognized as Patty Hearst. The 3 collaborators informed Matthews they were borrowing the van. Nothing would happen to him as long as he cooperated, they said. Patty and her companion took Matthew to a drive-in movie for a rendezvous, but their cohort never showed up. After being driven around for hours, Matthew was finally given back his van once Patty and her friends stole another vehicle. He returned to his family's home at 7 a.m. the next day. I have to say that I wanted to mention this account because there were many of them that mention how, she was involved in many of this. We don't know really if she was forced to do that or if she really was brainwashed into believing what this group believed. But it's just one of those things that raises a question. And it kind of makes you think, right? She was only 19 years old when this happened to her. If you remember, Elizabeth Smart, she was 14, she was brainwashed. She was kind of hiding in some kind of a religious attire and covering her face, but she almost didn't want to talk to the authorities when they went working on a tip to check on them to see if that was Elizabeth. She said she was terrified to say, "Yes, I'm Elizabeth. Save me. They kidnapped me." Because of the brainwashing that they did and the threats of killing her entire family. So it is 100% possible that Patty was under the same quote-unquote spell that a lot of kidnappers develop in order to keep their victims. Now, to end today's video, I'm going to give you a fun fact, I guess, on Patty, who in years following her release, Patty tried her hand at acting. Most famously in the films of director John Waters. There's a few pictures about the police escape gunfire from a house that was occupied by this group. There's pictures about the phrase guy, the general. There's also a few pictures of her posing with a gun while she was in captivity. But this, like yesterday's video, leaves you with more of a question and a true mystery, I'd say. That is, was she really brainwashed and believed what they told her? Or was she really faking all this to avoid being in jail? I guess it could be either or. I'd like to believe that she was brainwashed and that she was afraid of saying something that'd be the opposite of this group's beliefs, and that's why. And maybe she was not even given the option of going back home, and she only said that because the captors wanted her to. But there is plenty of people who doubt her, who can't believe that she was willing to, do everything that she did. And that there are witnesses that claim that she was in it and not forced as a regular person who has been kidnapped and forced to do things. So I guess it's a combination, right? The brainwashing with the forcing of doing things that maybe she was not convinced in doing. What do you think about the heiress who robbed a bank? What do you think about this case that really started one way and ended, in my opinion, in a messed up way? Let me know what you think. Thanks for being here today. Tomorrow we're going back to whispered videos. And we're gonna talk about another case in the Killers and Captors series on the girl in the box, who was a kidnapping victim, Colleen Stan, who was held captive for 7 years in horrific conditions. So how did she survive the ordeal? Well, you have to come back tomorrow and find out. Thank you so much for being here again. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.